Good morning, afternoon, or evening, campers, to episode 1 of my 4-part series discussing the 4 proper songs in the Camp Here and There soundtrack by Will Wood. Honestly, I mostly wanted to make this just because one of my mutuals on Twitter asked me if I was going to do analysis on it, probably as a joke, and I said, you know what, fuck it, and decided to make a 4-part series. Before I start, as always, nothing I say in this video or any other videos is canon, nor should it be taken seriously. I just wanted to get out my thoughts and opinions. Feel free to share your opinions and interpretations in the comments. Oh yeah, also subscribe. I realize I never really say that, but it would be really cool if you did, and you would be one of my super cool people. And one more thing, spoilers ahead for the Camp Here and There podcast. So, you don't want spoilers, go listen to that and then come back. If you're fine with spoilers, listen to this, and if you've already listened to the podcast, you know what's going on. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Camp Here and There is a podcast that began in 2021. It was basically a sort of found footage fiction podcast where we, the listeners, are hearing camp announcements, but that's a video for another day where I explain the whole setup of this. What I'm talking about is the soundtrack. In case you don't know, Will Wood composed the music for Camp Here and There and released the official soundtrack on streaming services. Among the various recognizable tunes from the podcast, such as afternoon and evening announcements, there were 4 proper songs that don't feature in the podcast but are instead about characters. So today I'm going to be analysing Venetian Blind Man, the first song. First, I should mention that I'm going to be calling the song Venetian Blind Man, even though I know it's pronounced Venetian, just because that's the way Will Wood pronounces it in the song, and it confuses me, because I looked up the pronunciation, and it is Venetian in America, so yeah, I don't know, maybe it was like a lyrical thing. But yeah, onto the analysis. Venetian Blind Man focuses on the character Rowan, one of the counselors at Camp Here and There. This song mostly sticks out to me because unlike the others, Rowan is more of a background character in terms of the podcast. Like, I know we haven't even technically heard Up and Adam speak yet, but he feels more central to the plot over Rowan, at least. According to the wiki page, Rowan is a counselor in Camp Magpie Moth at Camp Here and There. He receives psychic forecasts of upcoming meteorological events. So we already were hit with a bunch of information, and the most important part being his psychic weather forecasts, which are the main focus of this song. So let's begin breaking it down. Verse 1 already throws us in the deep end. It tells us that Rowan, the Venetian blind man, looks out of his window despite the fact that he doesn't necessarily want to, or because he doesn't want to see anything bad in a vision, but he knows it's for the best that he does check. To my knowledge, and from what it seems throughout the show, Rowan is not blind. Rather, it seems Venetian blind man is referring to Venetian blinds, a type of blinds for windows, probably linking back to the fact that he draws the blinds in order to escape his psychic visions. No one else to be seems to refer to the fact that he's the only one that gets these visions. Not only that, but he doesn't really seem to see another purpose in himself other than just guy who predicts bad weather. I see the first pre-chorus as Rowan talking to himself, trying to calm himself down or even prevent some sort of panic attack over a vision or omen, telling himself to stay in the moment rather than focus on future issues that may or may not happen. The first chorus I think of as, despite Rowan shutting himself down behind walls that feel like they're closing in, he cups his ear to the wall so he can hear what's going on outside. He's still curious. The last line I actually read the annotation for, and I agree with. The Genius annotation says something about the writing being a reference to writing on the walls, another term for an omen or a prophecy, further backed up by the walls being mentioned a couple lines ago. Verse 2 starts by talking about a string on his finger acting as a tourniquet ring. Ring tourniquet syndrome is when a ring is left on a finger too tight or for too long and it begins to cut off circulation. A string on a finger is usually used to remember something. From this we can assume Rowan's thoughts are so plagued with worries over his visions that he relies on strings on fingers to remember things, relying on them so often that it's begun to cause damage to his fingers. Pre-chorus 2 mentions Rowan's fear of the sky established in the podcast. It also reflects how much pressure he feels, as he's the only one that we know of who can predict these events. Honestly, I don't really understand chorus 2 in terms of relating to Rowan. They might possibly be hinting at that when he does have these breakdowns over these visions, he sort of sounds crazy whenever he tries to tell anyone else, and sort of sounds like a crazed lunatic, but that's about all I've got for this. I feel like the bridge of Venetian Blind Man shows Rowan's inner monologue. It's almost as if he's debating with himself whether he should tell anyone about a vision he just witnessed before finally deciding he should, saying, "Nobody knows it better than I do." And leading on from that, we have the final chorus, which I see as him rushing to tell someone, anyone, of the impending doom he just had a vision of, telling his feet not to fail him the way his eyes did. This line is the only line that could provide any sort of evidence for him being blind or at least vision impaired, but honestly I think it might just be closer to a previous time where he thought he saw a vision but his eyes were just playing tricks on him out of like worrying and stuff. This is also further supported by the following line, "Mind notes snap." He's silently hoping he can hold on to sanity for just a second longer so he can save everyone. Rowan is basically praying that he doesn't completely break down. And then finally the song fades out with the line "Venetian blind man" being repeated. I love how this song explored how much pressure Rowan is put under by having these visions. The lyrics combined with the beat of the song perfectly display his emotions during times of crisis. I also love how this song was able to get me to properly be interested in Rowan's character. I mean, I had nothing against him when I listened to the podcast, but he didn't really stand out. But now I'm more invested in his story. And with that, the first of 4 is complete. Thanks for making it this far in the video. You're super cool for that, and maybe, just maybe, you think I'm super cool too, so make sure you subscribe. Tune in the same time next week where we'll be talking about Yes to Err is Human, So Don't Be One. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.